Hey, good morning, Lagos. Good morning, everyone, wherever it is that you are listening to the show from. This is Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. My name is Ugo Dre. We do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30 on the station. And of course, you can catch this particular episode on our YouTube channel, Nairametrics TV. Of course, this and so many other business and finance related shows. I mean, if you're looking for very good shows very good information that helps you with your investment ideas or investment ideals or investment goals, then Nairametrics is that partner that you want to always check out. Yeah, and of course, we've got so many shows. There's Drinks and Mics, new episode out on Friday. Very interesting episode. We had another amazing guest on the show. And of course, we've got several others as well. And you do want to look out for my morning brief coming up later today on Nairametrics TV. What a week it was across Nigeria, especially the economic sphere. There were so many things happening. And then on Friday, a central bank dropped what, some people might think was a bombshell, but it wasn't really a bombshell anyway. But as if we were expecting that. But they dropped a circular that got a lot of people talking over the weekend, and I'm going to try and address that at some point on this show. So we go right into it. The Nigerian equities market closed the week in positive territory with the all-share index climbing by 0.71%, settling at 115,000. So up from 114,000. If you've been following me on the show, you'd have seen that the all-share index at some point was below 100K and it's been climbing, and now it's at 115,000, which apparently is the second straight weekly gain for June. June looking pretty good so far, and this is supported by renewed investor interest, particularly in consumer and in the industrial goods sector. We'll be interested to see if this bullish run continues this week, because a lot of people are already thinking that it might not continue this week because, of course, of the CBN circular, that is affecting banks. And we all know banks' liquidity essentially drives buy and sell in this market. But anyway, market capitalization rose by 459 billion, which essentially is the amount of money gained last week in the market, ending the week at 72.68 trillion in terms of total market capitalization for Nigeria. So market capitalization in Nigeria is 72.6 trillion naira. I mean, if you convert that to dollars, let's even see what it means. Let's just use 16. So 72.68 trillion. If you divided that by 16, that should give you around $45 billion. So the Nigerian stock market totality is worth $45 billion. Apple alone is worth $2 trillion. Just to put things into perspective here. But anyways, our darling stock market, nothing we can do about it. $45 billion is still a significant sum. That is like 25, 30 or so percent of our GDP. Total volume traded was 1.98 billion shares. That was a 34% drop from the previous week. So even though market cap did go up, volume of shares traded also reduced. Suggest perhaps most of the shares that was traded were blue chips, or most of the shares that drove the gains were blue chips with very limited volume. Total value traded was 31 billion, down 20.6% the week on week. Of course, we had 43 gainers, 31 losers, and 80 stocks unchanged. So just like I hinted, most of the rally was driven by Boa Cement. That's a stock that very limited volume, but strong market capitalization. Dangote Sugar, Honeywell Flour, and International Breweries. So these were the major movers during the week. So who were the top gainers and top losers last week. So we're going to start with the losers. So why do you want to pay attention? Because you probably own some of the stocks and you want to know how your portfolio is doing. And the top 10 declines during the week starts with Wema Bank. Wema Bank declined by 8%, not too much. Caverton Offshore declined by 9%. UACN declined by 11%. And of course, Guinea Insurance declined by 12.5%. TPLC declined by 14.8%. Consolidated Hallmark, I think they did announce dividend, if I'm not mistaken. They also declined by 15.8%. Thomas Wyatt, penny stock, declined by 16.2%. Ikeja Hotel declined by 16.9%. And Japol, looks like the bullish run is slowing down for that company. The stock declined by 18.5%. And the biggest loser for the week, or the biggest decline last week, was Tantalizers. Tantalizers have been having this dance over the last few weeks as the company continues to restructure and pivot into new businesses. And looks like there's a lot of internal, shareholder movement going on in there. Not really clear who are the major drivers here, but kind of looks like maybe some sort of internal moves. And that decline was 20% last week. So if you're one of those who looking to invest in Tantalizers or some of the stocks that I've just mentioned, and this declines, maybe put the stock right within your, purview or your buy zone, then you might want to take advantage of them. But out of these 10 stocks here, only stock that is in my watch list is Wema Bank. So I'm not sure about the other ones, but that's my own choice. So you could have choices of stocks that perhaps you prefer. All right, so we go to the top 10 gainers for the week. So coming in at number 10 is Prestige Assurance. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into some of these insurance stocks and follow the money hot stocks just to see which of these insurance stocks perhaps provide opportunity. Because the thing with insurance stocks is that they tend to, have those, gains here and there, and then all of a sudden they just drop as well. So it's pretty risky buying insurance stocks sometimes, but it doesn't mean that we don't have insurance stocks that have potential value, intrinsic value that you can take advantage of. But Prestige Assurance up 13.6%, and then we also have PZ Cussons. PZ Cussons, consumer goods company, gained 13.9% during the week. RT Briscoe gained 14.5%, and Champions Breweries, out of the blues, gained 16.4%. It did drop a little bit. I think there was one time it hit 7 naira, but I think it's fallen now to 6 naira 75 kobo. FTN Cocoa, 18% gain. I still don't know who owns the stock, but hey, last I checked, the stock didn't have revenue, but 18% gain. Dark Communications, 18.8% gain. Looks like it's clawing its way back into the bullish territory. Honeywell Flour Mills, one of the major drivers last week, up 20.5%. And of course, I had mentioned Boa Cement. Boa Cement up 21.3%. Boa Cement stock has been under pressure for a bit, but interesting to see that it's gained 21.3%. And typically when this stock climbs, it does really climb. So this is one to watch. If there's any stock that is in my, I'm adding afresh in my watch list, it is Boa Cement. Interesting to see what happens as we move on. But it's gained a whopping 21.3% in 1 week. Julie PLC gained 25%. To make it the second best performing stock last week. And the pick of the pack, the best performing stock in Nigeria last week, is none other than International Breweries PLC. Yeah, International Breweries PLC gained whopping 28.6% to top the chart as the best performing stock in Nigeria last week. So which of the stocks made it into your portfolio? So that's is the best performing stocks in Nigeria during the week. So there were bits and pieces of other news as well during the week, and we're going to talk about that when we come back. The second half of the show. Of course, this is Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. Of course, we do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30 on this channel. If you miss any part of this, don't be worried. You can catch it again on our YouTube channel. Recorded version is going to be out later today, and you can watch and stream at your own pleasure. That's the world we are in now, on demand. You can basically just have control of what you listen to and what you watch anywhere online. We will be right back in a bit. All right, welcome back. This is Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics, of course. We do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30 on the show. And welcome to the second half of the show. And a lot of news last week, but we will settle on a few. First one is for investors of Cornerstone Insurance, or I thought it was consolidated. Beg your pardon. So it's Cornerstone Insurance. Cornerstone surprised investors with a final dividend of 27 kobo per share for its 2023 financial year. Wow. Its highest payout in history based on Nairametrics research. And that's a 50% increase compared to the 18 kobo that it paid the year before. So if you're an investor in this company, if you want to get the dividend, you want to be part of this dividend, largesse, then you got to be able to have bought the shares on or before the 26th of June, 2025, because that's when the register is going to be closed, and payout is scheduled just barely a few weeks after, July 19th. So interesting to see how this dividend announcement impacts the share price of this company. And Boa Cement, I did talk about them earlier on. They've had a breakout week with the share price surging by over 20%, like I mentioned earlier, to hit 171. And it is also one of the best stocks this June, to be precise, actually, and not even this week. And so what exactly is going on? I mean, their numbers were out, Q1. And so not sure why investors appear to have caught on weeks after their numbers came out. So I've always said that there are three reasons why share prices often go up. That's my own thesis. And so the first one is fundamental. So it's either the company's results are very good, or the company looks like it's going to pay a fat dividend, or the company has made a strategic, pivot in its business. So those are like fundamentals, like things that have got to do with profits, with revenue growth, with dividend payment. So those things typically drive share prices. So if you invest in companies in anticipation that their profitability is going to go up or their earnings per share is going to go up, particularly earnings per share, and then most times, more likely than not, you will be correct. Because if that company does, post higher earnings per share, then the share price of that company is going to go up. It's just it. And if the company as well pays dividend, because sometimes you can have a company that gives you higher earnings per share, which is higher profits. I mean, earnings per share is basically the profit of a company divided by its total outstanding shares. And so if the earnings per share doesn't go up, but the company pays a lot of dividend, that's very important as well. It's called dividend payout ratio. So imagine a company makes 1 naira in earnings per share and pays out 70 kobo in dividend. And that essentially is 70% dividend payout ratio, right? Now, imagine if that company is trading at, say, 5 naira per share. So if you divide the 70 kobo by 5 naira, you get a dividend yield of 14%. So that basically is your return on investment. And the 40% return on investment that is dividend based is incredibly high in Nigeria. So that stock most times can end up doubling in share price. Yep, I said it. It could go from that 5 naira to 10 naira. So these are just some of the tricks that you can use to determine whether the share price of a company is going to go up or not. And the other one is now technical analysis. So this is just people using all sorts of predictive tools to determine whether the share price will go up or not. So they basically use some sophisticated analysis and look at trends from the past and look at the volume of shares that is trading, interest. They have all these tools, and then they can determine whether the share price is going to go up or not. So it's purely technical. It's hardly anything to do with fundamentals, even though some analysts tend to combine both. But technical analysis would often just be, people using predictive tools, not necessarily whether the company is going to make profit or not. They don't really care about that. They just look at where demand and supply is going to look like. So if they feel like there's going to be huge demand at some point because of some of the trades that you're seeing in the back end, then they tend to make bets on that stock. And so for you to want to be a very good technical stock investor, you do need to have access to the trading engine so that you can see a whole lot of data. And there are certain tools that you can use to analyze that data, and then you can buy. And these things are really important because shares is kind of not that simple as people think. I mean, what I mean is the difference between you and I can be when I bought the stock. So I remember a friend who told me like there was one time he made so much money in the stock market, not because he was that smart, but because he told his stockbroker to make sure that he puts his shares on the order table first, early in the morning, because he wanted to offload the stock early because he's already made a sizable gain. And that difference alone was enough for him to make all the money that he made. Because if he had sold the shares in the afternoon, then he may have not made as much. Probably have lost because the share price did drop because of the way he sold or the amount of shares he sold. So these are all technical analysis. So now the thing with technical analysis is that they're very short term in nature. You really don't you're not basically looking at the fundamentals of the stock. So you're not patient. You just want to go in and go out. You want to make your money quickly. So short-term investors don't wait for too long to get their money out. Now, the third one, which I think is one of the major drivers in Nigeria for share prices, is what I call boardroom action. Yeah, boardroom action. If you follow my blog, ftm.ng, you're going to be getting some of this bits and pieces of my own ideas. And so boardroom action is internal things that happen within those companies that which you may not know. And a lot of people tend to find out or tend to have this information. So boardroom action can be, for example, if company A is about to acquire company B. So that has got nothing to do with profits or revenue. It's got nothing to do with technical analysis. It's just the fact that company A wants to acquire company B that can trigger a demand for the shares of that company, and share price can go up. Boardroom action could also be that maybe the company has decided that they want to raise capital. That can trigger, a move for the share price of that company. Because think about it, most companies, once they want to raise capital, they often want to raise capital at a share price that is slightly more expensive than before they decide they want to raise capital, because that way they only give out a little bit more shares than before. So boardroom action is a major driver here. So in a lot of cases where you don't see fundamentals driving into a technical analysis, it's typically boardroom action. It could even be one of the shareholders of the company deciding to buy more shares because they just want to have a lot more sizable position of that stock. Or it could even be somebody, an outsider, who's just scooping shares because they want to take position in that company. Those are all like boardroom related actions. I kind of think that is one major driver of share price in Nigeria. So those three: fundamentals, technical analysis, and boardroom action. I don't know, that's what's driving Boa. And the next stock I'm about to talk about, which is Oando. Oando also has been doing pretty well. Like share price exploded over the last few weeks, up 39%, I think, this month. Driven, of course, by a number of positive development, fundamentals, and I think some boardroom action as well. So you can have a combination of all three. When you have a combination of all three, it's like winning your sale and you just keep going up. And so its acquisition of NOAC, that's the upstream asset, has been significant to the share price movement, and it's one of the major gainers during the last few weeks. And so for shareholders of Owando, I'm sure a lot of you are pretty happy. Owando has taken a serious beating over the years. So I'm glad to see that the stock is picking up again and looks like the future appears to be brighter for shareholders of the company, especially with its latest acquisition. And now that share price is above 70%, oil and gas stocks, looks like interest in those stocks are likely going to rise this week. Yep, I said it. So you want to pay attention to oil and gas stocks. Looks like interest is up there. By the way, my latest FTM, I did talk about a consumer goods stock, Nestle. And I was trying to explain why Nestle's share price might pop. But if you want to check why I think that share price is likely going to pop, you have to go to that blog. It's ftm.ng. F for follow the money, of course. So acronym for follow the money, ftm.ng. And you will have to sign up. It's exclusive. It's not for everybody. Exclusive followers. And you can only get that and some of the other stocks that I am recommending in my portfolio. And so you might want to check them out. All right. So we go into the next topic, and that's the CBN. So the CBN dropped what some people might call a bombshell. I mean, some of us, not a bombshell, but I mean, they did drop a circular on Friday, and they said that they wanted to end forbearance for banks, which, I mean, it's not new. They've been saying that. I think you're wondering what forbearance is. Forbearance basically is, the policy that the CBN started in 2020 after COVID, which essentially allows banks not to take as much provisions on their bank loans, and so on their bad loans. And so that allows banks have a bit more money to pay for dividends or sort of increase their capital buffers. But the CBN is rolling back those forbearances, which, of course, inadvertently means some banks are likely going to take in more provisions. And when banks take more provisions, it typically leads to more losses. But here's what's important, why this concerns you, why you might want to check it out. They did say that banks that are under forbearance, right, that haven't made full provisions for some of their bad loans, will not be able to pay dividend. They said they will also not be able to give executive bonuses, so which means their CEOs and top execs are not going to get some of those fat bonuses that they do get. And the CBN also is curbing their investment capabilities outside Nigeria. And a lot of banks have been going offshore. I've been talking about that for a bit. We're seeing a lot of banks turning into multinationals, basically Nigerian banks. But that expansion offshore, the CBN is saying they have to stop it so that they can have some capital retention. Because those expansions are expensive, and so if you don't have capital retention, enough buffer for your forbearance loans when they do crystallize, then you can't do that. And so that's what the CBN is saying. So, what does this mean for you, though? Well, what this means is, if you're a shareholder of some of these banks and these banks don't make adequate covers or don't have adequate buffers, then they will likely not be able to pay significant amount of their. It's going to be rare to see a bank not pay dividend from profits this year. I doubt it's going to happen because people have been calling me I don't see how banks don't pay dividend this year. It's just implausible. But the level of dividend they pay is going to be the problem. So you're likely going to see some banks pay much lower dividend than expected. Even though the other side of the story also suggests some of these banks have made adequate provisions already, because we're looking at the data, and you go and check Nairametrics website today, one of the top stories there, most banks actually have adequate covers already. And so there's this thing called NPL coverage ratio, which is the amount of cover the bank has over its bad loans. And kind of looks like most of the banks do have high NPL coverage ratio. And so maybe that risk is not as much as we think. But you know what? I mean, you never know. I mean, nobody, like, it's not like we can see into all their numbers per se. So, but that's what we think it's like going to happen. So if you're a shareholder of this bank, going to pay attention to what's going to happen. And that is why some people are worried that you might see bank share prices take a beat today or this week. And if they do, then that could also, expand into other stocks as well. So be interesting to see if we're going to have a bearish week this week. But I like bears sometimes, because when you have bears, then you have opportunities to invest. And so I'm going to be speaking more to this CBN letter and its impact on banks in my morning brief later today, probably published later today or tomorrow morning on Nairametrics TV. So you might want to check that. I'm going to break this all down for you so that you can better understand. And there's a new post, of course, on my blog, ftm.ng, where I also did explain it, but that's strictly for subscribers of that blog. So if you're not subscribed yet, you might want to check it out, ftm.ng. Finally, for me, before we close, Ponzi scheme lovers. I don't know why you guys just love Ponzi's. There's some people that just love, like this. Just not that, you can't just save these people, man. We did hear that people are back buying CBEX. That Ponzi scheme, well, according to SEC, that crashed. I'm not the one saying it's Ponzi. Somebody come on, call me. I mean, SEC said it's like a Ponzi scheme. And SEC did issue fresh warnings to Nigerians investing in CBEX and telling them to be careful because of what happened. So CBEX is operating illegally, according to SEC, and the public is strongly advised to avoid any dealings with the platform. The commission emphasized that CBEX is not registered with SEC and is not authorized to collect funds or offer investment advice. I've often said it before that if any company that tells you to bring money to invest publicly, if they are not registered with SEC, it's a Ponzi. I don't care how legitimate that company is, so long as you're soliciting money from the public. It's a different thing when you're soliciting money from private people, maybe just 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, or people within your family, your village, your friends. That's different. But when you go public and just anybody can just come and invest money in you, you gotta be careful, man. That's like a Ponzi. And so that's the warning from SEC. So you want to be careful. Your capital is too important to risk on vibes. This has been Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics. I remain Ugodre. And until we do this again next week, do have a profitable week ahead. Bye.